Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 14 of season 2 of The Flash called Escape from Earth 2. And this is, a solid enough episode that there's just several things about it that didn't really work for me. So let's kind of start with the small stuff and work our way up. So let's see. We're introduced to a new character, Iris's new boss at the paper. And unsurprisingly, he quickly takes a stance of, like, hey, let's complain about the Flash, not being here to help out. It's like, the Flash does all of this out of pure altruism. He's not exactly under an obligation to be there. It sort of feels like, in a way, that they're just sort of taking the Flash for granted here. But and then a lot of people have said this kind of feels like they're trying to do some sort of J. Jonah Jameson riff, and that's kind of the first thing that jumps to my mind. But let's keep in mind, though, that Jameson is ridiculously unreasonable in his traditional portrayal. This guy seems to at least be willing to give Iris a chance to sort of, okay, give me a reason to run something positive. I mean, Jameson is almost cartoonish in his hatred of Spider-Man. So I don't think we're going to be getting it to quite that degree. We'll just have to see with this guy. And let's kind of stick with what's going on there on Earth 1 for the most part to begin with. So, Geomancer, looking suspiciously like somebody who kinda threw together like a Winter Soldier cosplay thing. Um, this destroys a hospital, and it is very cool to see Jay get to save everybody there. Looked like a suspiciously empty hospital. I mean, it's a darn big building. I mean, I assume it was a hospital from all those people standing around like that. Like, a bunch of people in robes, people who look like doctors and stuff. But again, just TV limitations. But then he just sort of strolls into Star Labs. I still can't figure out if Caitlin and Barrett and Cisco are still the only people that work there, despite the fact that we've seen the parking lot full of cars at least once or twice. But yeah, again, he just strolls right in there. There's no even explanation as to how in the world he even knew to go there. And it's just like, oh, this is so stupid. Really? You're doing this to me, show? Come on. Give me a little bit more respect as a viewer than this. Now, it was very cool that ultimately it was actually Caitlin who took him down in the end. That's cool. And, he does survive this episode, and we might get to see him again, although I'm not super excited about it, because, again, this guy is pretty uninteresting as a character in my book. Definitely did like, seeing Jay and Joe team up to, deal with the portal situation. And now we've got Caitlin in a matter of no time. Skips from Velocity 7, briefly mentions Velocity 8, goes right to Velocity 9. And we see Velocity 9 as a potential cure for Jay's medical condition, which is all cool. And it was nice to get to see Jay, have that heroic moment. Iris wanting to, interview him for the paper. I mean that's all cool and stuff. But well, there's more to say about Jay, but we're just gonna have to leave that for a bit to go and talk about what's going on with Earth 2. So let's talk about what's happening over there. Definitely nice to see that they, didn't waste Henry Hewitt as a character. You generally feel a little bit scared for the guy, who seems to be a pretty good person when Zoom, goes after him. And we don't know for sure whether or not he survived that. I mean, maybe we'll see in the future. Who knows? We get to finally really have Jessie fleshed out a lot more as a character, and we do get that reminder that her dad had said that she's the only person he knows that's smarter than him, which was kind of cool. It was definitely nice to see her sort of dealing with Barry and kind of having the chance to react with him, get to know him. That's cool. Oh yeah, we kind of find out that on Earth 2, Patty Spivot is indeed a CSI. So nice little name drop there to kind of clear up that question for us. Good job. Um, super impressed with Earth 2 Barry now that we kind of get to flesh him out a little bit. I kind of imagine Earth 2 Barry is sort of that persona that Barry Allen in the comics sometimes presents, although cranked up a little bit. Here Barry is just like, God, dude, seriously? Are you really like that? But, he does redeem himself in the end where he gives Barry that great speech about how, I did all these things that I never thought I could. I did things that I thought were impossible. You're the Flash. This is nothing for you. You can get out of there. And, as, slightly irksome as Earth 2 Barry might have been with his exaggerated Clark Kentedness, that scene really made it pay off well. Even Cisco, he had a couple of really nice moments. He's the one that sort of really gets the proper drop on Killer Frost. He's the one that gets through to her at the end. It's like, look, he killed Ronnie, and evil Caitlin Snow or not, that's got to be tearing you up inside. And he also got to make the reference to Frozen, which was kind of cool. I really would have liked it if they'd acknowledged whether or not somebody from Earth 2 got that joke or not. Let's see. Earth 2 Iris, get to see her, in action, going out there, doing a pretty good job of holding her own under the circumstances. And she is, they do acknowledge that she probably should have been a little freaked out by that being some other bear, that being, not her husband. But they do kind of gloss over that a little bit. But again, there's only so much time in this episode. Nothing really huge to say about Harrison Wells this episode. Again, and nothing really particularly huge to say about Barry either. Just, very cool moment when he finally does get out of there. And it was very nice to have him have that moment where he goes, you're like, okay, yeah, Zoom just told me how to get out of here. And then ultimately it actually doesn't work. It does work in the end. He just needed a little bit of a kick in the butt. Although the whole idea of you forgot that Earth 2 vibrates at a different frequency kinda seems like he probably should have remembered that, but okay. Which brings us to the Man in the Iron Mask. Now, notice, actually, let's stop back. There's not really a huge amount that I have to say about Killer Frost in this episode. I am disappointed, though, that for a minute, where basically she's like, oh yeah, I told Zoom where you are, and then less than 2 minutes later she's attacking Zoom. It's like, look, if you're going to have her backstab the team, have her properly backstab the team. Don't just throw it out the window 2 minutes later. That just sort of makes the whole thing seem pointless. Yeah, and I am genuinely disappointed in the show for doing that. Let's see, what else? Yeah, one other thing. So, Zoom's lair. We've seen there are these trains up there, hanging in this lair, right? And then we find out this episode it's in this cliff, part of a mine shaft or something, in these cliffs out in the middle of the woods. What the hell are these trains doing in a mine shaft in the middle of nowhere? And the thing is, though, they don't look like, trains from the 1800s or something like that. I mean, yeah, okay, Earth 2, but still. Why are these things there? I mean, if you just said, oh yeah, he's hanging out in an abandoned train station. Well, we know abandoned train stations are a real thing. That would have just made so much more sense. Why, in the name of God, are there trains there? Okay, so let's kind of get to the big mystery of this episode. And that is, of course, what's up with the Man in the Iron Mask? Well, first, notice, Jesse Quick is locked up in a regular cage. Barry and the Man in the Iron Mask are locked up in these fish tank things. So, why throw the guy in the Iron Mask into the fish tank thing? Now, you could also make the case that, and because remember, Barry can talk to Jesse from inside that thing. I presume it's the mask that's for some reason inhibiting him from being able to speak. Which leads to this guy doing the whole, code thing. Which is stupid. Because, one, if Barry hadn't known about a tap code, they were effed. And two, why not just use finger spelling? Seriously. That's what it's called too. You know, A B C D, and even better, it's silent. Zoom ain't gonna frickin' hear that. Zoom will hear that. He's not gonna hear this. And, the whole thing where they're talking about Morse code, Barry goes, it's not Morse code. Why the hell does Barry even know Morse code? Like, literally, the U.S. Army, I read this in an article, actually stopped teaching that several years ago. And Barry, being from Earth 1, which presumably is analogous to our Earth, that would also be true there. So, yeah. Now, we do get to see a little bit of the back of the guy's neck, and it sort of looks like he might have blonde hair. So that's, I think, a little clue. But the thing that he most desperately wants to tell them is something about Jay Garrick. Well, okay, looking at the situation, it would pretty much be impossible, as best I can tell, for Jay Garrick and Zoom to be the same person. That just doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. But there's a couple things. First of all, Zoom says that he's not going to kill Harrison Wells because he needs Wells to steal Barry's speed. But Jay said Zoom stole his speed. Well, why does he need Harrison Wells to steal Barry's speed when he was able to do it on his own to steal Jay's speed? And there's also the question of, well, okay. Well, why? What is so important about Jay Garrick? I mean, Jay does kind of have blondish hair, and we do know that there are shape-shifting people, in on Earth 1 at least. So, is it possible that the person that, you know, Zoom did capture Jay and imprison him and sent this person as an imposter to Earth 1? Somebody who, with a sympathetic backstory, could get in on Team Flash. And, it would sort of make sense that he would not have super speed if he never had it in the first place, and then uses velocity 6 for whatever and velocity 9 and does temporarily gain super speed. Now again, that's speculation, but you gotta wonder. Wouldn't it be a blast if he was like Earth 2 Everyman? That'd be pretty cool. So let's see, what else? Now another possibility, admittedly, that floated through my mind was, well, what if he's actually not? What if Zoom is not actually from Earth 2? What if he's from like Earth 3, which is in the DC universe, the Crime Syndicate universe? The evil counterparts to all the JLA heroes. Superman's evil counterpart is Ultraman. Superman is evil. Superwoman is evil Wonder Woman. Johnny Quick, the evil one, is the Flash's counterpart. So what if instead of it having that evil counterpart be Zoom and Johnny Quick, what if they had it be Zoom? Because having there be a good Johnny Quick and an evil Johnny Quick always did seem a little dumb to me. But again, that's just kind of some speculation on my part. But it's just really hard to tell what's going on here. But it's very clear that whatever is going on with the whole Jay Garrick thing, the Man in the Iron Mask thinks it's extraordinarily important. And for some reason, Zoom's keeping this guy alive. Now, there's also the possibility that this guy could be, as people have said, this could be Zoom's counterpart from Earth 1, which I think makes pretty good sense. Now, there's other possibilities on the table. Like, what if somehow Jay got brainwashed or something, and he's a mole for Zoom and doesn't even know it? That would be pretty cool too. But again, just speculating here. But the whole thing with the Man in the Iron Mask and him, I mean, what they did there, that really does a nice job of upping the tension. It's just like, what's going on with Jay? I mean, so far he's been. Oh, excuse me. nothing but a good guy, and we've had no reason to distrust him. But now, and then at the end of the episode, when everything's over, he goes and for some reason stands suspiciously close to that portal. But on the other hand, if if Jay was Zoom, then how could he have reached out and grabbed himself from Earth 2? So again, the idea of Jay being Zoom really doesn't make very much sense. But Jay somehow being an agent of Zoom, and maybe he knows it, maybe he doesn't, I think that probably deserves a little bit of due consideration. So, with that said, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. And please join me as well on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.